Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Joyce Bracy Vaughn, and I will be presiding over this opening plenary this morning. And we wish to welcome you to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff for our 24th, I repeat, our 24th Dr. Mary E. Benjamin Conference on Educational Access. Would you please give the 24th your roaring applause? Our theme on today is the cutting edge technology and computer science in education. And we are very happy that each of you have made room in your schedules to be a part of this conference. I'd like to announce this morning that we are dedicating this 24th Educational Access Conference to Dr. Mary E. Benjamin, its founder. Please give her a round of applause. Our program will proceed as printed. Our chancellor is running a little bit, well, because he's the chancellor. When he comes in, he will do his appropriate greetings to each of us. But at this time, we are happy to welcome to the stage our founder, Dr. Mary E. Benjamin.
Good morning. Good morning. This is truly a great day. I look at so many people around and I think, what were we doing 24 years ago? And how are we still here? Are we still? Dr. Blake is telling me something.
Take that down for the camera.
This?
So you can be seen on the camera.
Is that okay? Thank you. She was here 24 years ago, helping to give direction on everything, and we appreciate it. To Ms. Vaughn, who is always such an elegant presiding officer, to all of the members on the platform, Dr. Lane Brown, Dr. Walker, Mr. Evans,
Owen.
Mr. Owens. I've gotten Ms. Vaughn already. Our honorable mayor, who is such a busy lady. I just saw her Sunday at a celebration of leaders here in Pine Bluff, and here she is with us. She was here at 8 o'clock for this event. And our very lovely Miss UAPB. We have outstanding music on this campus. You will witness that very shortly. I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining us. And I know it will be done later, but I'd like to acknowledge the planning committee. We know how many meetings you've had. We know how many phone calls you made to get today organized. So Dr. Lane Brown, would you and your planning committee please stand and let us acknowledge you. Please stand, the planning committee. Thank you so much. We'd like to welcome all our guests. Each year, in the spring, the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff opens the gate and invites in professionals and lay members of the community, along with the faculty and students of this university, to discuss important issues in the profession of education. Today, we are focusing on technology and computer science. I could not think of a more appropriate and timely topic. What we are looking for today is to gain more insight on how the whole field of education can be enhanced by careful and deliberate integration of computer science and technology into the curriculum. We know we have coding programs underway. We know that we hear a lot about computer science and technology, but today we want to take a sharper focus, look more closely at how we have integrated those concepts and what else can we do to better integrate the concepts for a more workable outcome. So what we hope for today is networking, shared information, honest and open discussion, research-based information that will help us to just kind of leave the outside world out there for a little minute and just focus internally, this group, on what is going on. And as we do that, we are hoping that we will all grow in that process, but that as we get more insight on this important subject, that we will not just keep it to ourselves, but that we will go out, go back to our places in the community, in church, at home, and share this information with others. In other words, we are asking you to leave here as messages of important information about the use of technology and computers in education. We are also asking you to take it also to a different level, to take it back to the young people in your community. If you're working in a school, in your classroom, you're a parent to your children, you're a church member to your congregation, help the students to understand that technology and computers exceed the games that they play all of the time. I mean, actually, I don't know about your church, but I notice in my church, when the little folk come in, they have their equipment in their hand, and which keeps them quiet. It does keep them quiet throughout the service, but the point is, what is the appropriate use of technology? And if you love it that much for fun and game, can you take that to the different level and use it for knowledge and information and career building? That's the message that we hope to deliver. Again, I'd like to thank you for being here. I want you to know that UAPB really always has an open door. And if you have information and projects that you would like to share with us, if you have grants that you would like to write with us, go ahead and take advantage of that. And in that process, we will grow this whole environment and have our young people prepared for the careers where they can excel and make us all proud. Thank you so much for being here. And one last thing, if you have any need, if you are a guest, if you have any need throughout this day, could I ask the members of the planning committee to hold up their hands one more time? Those people with their hands up are the people that you will go to and say, I need water, or where's the next room? They are here to assist you and make sure that you are comfortable. You know what? Your comfort is our priority today. Thank you for being here. Enjoy.
Again, we want to congratulate our founder, and again, give her just another applause, because Dr. Benjamin is Dr. Mary E. Benjamin. There's only one. I will not rise for each participant, but I had to stand to welcome to her alma mater, the mayor of Pine Bluff, Mrs. Shirley Washington. Won't you please give her a roaring applause as she comes today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On behalf of the city of Pine Bluff, I want to welcome you here today. Thank you, Dr. Vera Lang Brown, and for inviting me, and Dr. Benjamin for the words of wisdom and inspiration for this wonderful conference. I really like the way she opened up by telling us how we can inspire our kids to make good use of that technology that they have embraced so dearly. You know, even the young kids in elementary school can't make it without their technology. Well, let me tell you a little bit about my technology, my cell phone. I told my daughter I had a cell phone, an i4, for a long time, and I said, this is fine. It does everything that I needed to do. So then she said, no, you need a 6. That's too outdated. You need a 6. So I lost my 4. Well, actually, something started working, and I had to go to the 6. And I lost the 6 right there on that table. I left it there, and when I came back, it was gone one night. I was here at a conference or a banquet or something. So I had to go to the 6, is it the 6S? 6S? Well, something happened to the 6S, and my daughter was going wrong, and my daughter said, Mama, you just need to go on and get the 7. And I said, look, what does the 7 do that this one won't do? And she told me a few things, and I said, I don't need it. But I tell you, I finally got that 7, and I love it. And I use it in front of the kids, because I can pick it up and say, hey, Siri, I need information on, and she will give me pages and pages of information. And I started doing that in front of the kids that I work with at church. And I'll say, hey, Siri, I need the verse that says, and I can just give them a few words of that verse, and it will reference the verse I'm looking for. So we have to, as she said, as Dr. Benjamin said, teach our kids to apply that technology in meaningful educational ways, because it impacts society in such great ways. You know, I want you to know that our city embraces your theme today. The theme for this conference, the cutting edge, technology and computer science in education. Because of your leadership and vision, students from around the world are preparing for a future at state-of-the-art STEM facilities here at the University of Arkansas and at Southeast Arkansas College as well. Our local K-12 schools and after-school programs are helping students to train for jobs of the 21st century through robotics clubs, coding workshops, and masterful STEM programs. The work you're doing today is critical, very critical, for Pine Bluff's future. Improving computer science and educational access will attract employers and investments in Pine Bluff. It will train and retrain the best and the brightest minds in our community. Most importantly, it helps us move forward. It helps us move toward a day where any young person growing up in Pine Bluff has the same opportunity to get a great education and succeed as a student anywhere in America. And I can also go so far as to say, anywhere in the world. I believe that we are one Pine Bluff, stronger together. I'm grateful to all of you for participating in this conference and moving us closer to this vision. I look forward to working with you in the future as we build a Pine Bluff that we can all be so very proud to call our home. Thank you so very much, and enjoy this wonderful conference.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Ashley Marie Tate, a senior here at the university, majoring in English with a prosperous future as an educator. And I graciously serve as the 87th Miss University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. I am honored to be in a room filled with not only educators, but trailblazers, game changers, and role models. Throughout my tenure here at the university, I have learned professional skills and lifelong lessons, which has only constructively developed me as an educator, and for that I am thankful to all of you. Today, I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes on education by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of a true education. Thank you.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am here to provide you with an overview of the conference. Will you please take out your booklet? And as a matter of fact, protocol has already been established. And I created for you a cheat sheet, and it should be a yellow sheet that may have been slipped inside your booklet. The theme for the 24th Annual Mary E. Benjamin Conference on Educational Access is the cutting edge Technology and Computer Science in Education. The conference theme supports Governor Hutchinson's initiative to increase students' awareness and interest in computer science and STEM areas. Several workshops listed in your booklet have been selected to focus on the effective uses of technology and computer science in education. Now, as you will turn to page 5 in your booklet, you will find that our conference theme is supported by 7 objectives. And I'm not going to read the objectives to you, but just know that throughout the day, the conference workshops at some point will address one, some, or many of the conference objectives. Now, I have provided you a brief overview highlighting some of the conference topics. And so you might want to put your sheet, yellow sheet, to the right, because I tried to at least follow the program booklet to give you some insight to help you identify what workshops you might want to go with. So I'm not going to refer to the titles pretty much of the workshops in the booklet. I'm just going to read from the yellow sheet, and then you can go back and take a look at some of the topics that you would like to address. But know that the ones that are on the yellow sheet are listed somewhat in order in the booklet. For the morning session, our plenary speaker, Mr. Anthony Owen, will provide us with information on Governor Asa Hutchinson's computer science initiatives, the state of computer science education in Arkansas, and perhaps the need to prepare our students for college in the 21st century workforce. And there will probably be other things that he would address. Our UAPB student teachers will provide the conference participants with innovative teaching strategies or tips on how to utilize technology in their teaching to enhance student learning. And some of the topics are provided in the yellow worksheet. Mr. Patrick Rickards, who was our keynote speaker on yesterday, will continue in another workshop this morning talking about how the foundation, Woodrow Wilson Foundation, has worked with 5 institutions in 5 different states in recruiting, identifying, retaining in high-need areas math and science teachers. Veronica Parker and Stacy Reed, who are non-teaching mathematics majors, they're going to demonstrate how the integration of technology and the use of multimedia can enhance teaching and student learning of calculus compared to the old traditional way of teaching calculus. That should be a very interesting workshop conducted by 2 of our students who will soon be graduating from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Mrs. Martin, who works in the library, her workshop will focus on online learning activities, instructional and management systems and multimedia resources, interactive tutorials, gaming and games, digital storyboarding, and e-portfolios. And so if you're interested in learning about e-portfolios or digital storyboarding, that might be a choice for you to sit in on. Then for the afternoon session during the luncheon, Dr. Ivy Pfeiffer, who will be our keynote luncheon speaker, will address some of the educational changes and the direction of education in our state. She will be accompanied by Mrs. Joan Luneau, who is the Educator Preparation Coordinator at the Arkansas Department of Education. This will be a very key component of our conference because we have, in fact, 3 representatives from the Arkansas Department of Education to come and talk to us, and then we have an opportunity to ask them questions about what's happening in our state of Arkansas regarding computer science, Mr. Owens, as well as educational issues in our public schools and throughout the state. Also, we have Mr. Daniel Mose, who will also be talking, and I listed that he is one of the leading computer science leaders in the state of Arkansas.
if you look at his background, he has been quite a computer science person. He will talk about, or he would teach participants in this particular workshop how to become a member of the Arkansas Apps for School for Good program, and he will also introduce to teachers how to empower students to create mobile applications for Android phones and tablets. And then we have 3 of our community leaders, movers and shakers in our community. Dr. Mary Brentley, who is also a university faculty member, Mrs. Maddie Collins, and Mrs. Annette Dove, who will come and talk to us about what they are doing in terms of mentoring and preparing African American males for college, careers, and really life. And then last, Mr. Yang Tao, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He will discuss, and this particular gentleman is a PhD student from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. He will discuss the development of coding techniques in the cloud and how the coding technique will benefit the system. Now that you have heard the different kinds of workshops and you have your yellow cheat sheet, take a few seconds and decide where you want to go. If you have any questions on finding the room, look to your booklet, and the booklet should give you information. If not, please feel free to call on one of the planning committee members. Thank you.
There was a boy, a certain strange enchanted boy. They said he traveled very far, over land and sea. A little shy and sad of eye, but very wise was he. And then one day, one special day, he came my way. And as we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest joy that you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. There was a boy, a certain strange enchanted boy. They said he traveled very far, over land and sea. A little shy and sad of eye, but very wise was he. And then one day, one magic day, he came my way. And as we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest joy that you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. Love, a word that comes and goes, but few people really know what it means to really love somebody. Oh, love, though the tears may fade away, I'm so glad your love will stay, because I love you and you showed me Jesus, and and that's what it really means. What it really means, oh, what it really means to love. The nights that I cried, you loved me. When I should have died, you loved me. I'll never know why you love me. And it's a mystery to me. Now I'm glad to see Jesus. When all hope was gone, you loved me, yeah. You gave me a song 'cause you love me, yeah. And I'll never know why you love me. It's a mystery to me. Now I'm glad to see Jesus. What it really means. What it really means. What it really means to love. Thank you.
I said I wouldn't get up again, but I had to because that's one of my babies from Vespa. Would you please give Mr. Ricky Wade another round of applause? That's what it means to be prepared. His technology didn't work, but did you miss it? Not at all, not at all. He was a part of that very special group that went to Madrid and Toledo, Spain during spring break, gave up their spring break to be representatives and ambassadors of Arkansas through a proclamation from the Senate and the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Once again, please give Mr. Ricky Wade your applause.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I have the honor this morning of introducing our keynote speaker, Mr. Anthony Owen. Mr. Owen serves as the Arkansas State Director of Computer Science, a position created at the request of Governor Asa Hutchinson and housed within the Arkansas Department of Education. From 2011 until July 2015, he served as ADE's K-12 Mathematics and Computer Science Curriculum Specialist. Mr. Owen leads the development of and implementation of Governor Asa Hutchinson's Computer Science Initiative. In this role, Owen coordinates with multiple national and state entities, including K-12 educators, representatives from higher education, and business and industry leaders to ensure Arkansas's efforts in computer science are relevant to the needs of the state of Arkansas and the nation. At a national level, Mr. Owen serves as a board member for the National Computer Science Teachers Association, as a member of the Southern Regional Education Board's Computer Science, a Commission on Computer Science, Information Technology, and related career fields, and served as writer of the recently published K-12 Computer Science Framework. Anthony also serves closely with Governor Hutchinson's Computer Science Task Force, which identifies the state's computer science and technology needs. Allow me to add, I've also had the pleasure of seeing Mr. Owen present one of his workshops at the Arkansas STEM Coalition's meeting in Arkansas Tech. I think it was last spring. And that may be due to his diverse educational background. Anthony received a Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics with a double minor in Education and Computer Science and a MSE in Educational Leadership, both from Henderson State University in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. He received a Juris Doctorate from the UALR Bowen School of Law in 2013 and was admitted to the Arkansas Bar in 2014. Without further ado, I present to you Mr. Anthony Owen.
Thank y'all, and thank you for the gracious introduction.
It sounds better than it is, trust me. It sounds more important than it is, I guess I should say. I am honored to be at the UAPB campus. Many people don't know this, though I don't hide the fact. A lot of people don't know where it is, so whenever I say where I'm originally from, they look at me with glazed faces. But I grew up about 20 miles south of here in a little community called Glendale and attended Star City Public Schools. I am a first-generation college student. None of my other family members have a college degree, so I, if nothing else, like to say that I am proof that people can come out of this area of the state and go to college and find success. I am extremely blessed in my position, and I'm blessed because of my mother's knowledge that technology would serve me well going forward. I grew up on a small poultry and cattle farm down in Star City, and we were not by any stretch of the imagination wealthy. We were blessed, I'll say it that way, but we were by no stretch of the imagination wealthy. But my mother always saw need to have computing technology for me at a very young age. I had the grades and I had the intelligence to be a gifted, talented student. I pick on Miss Linda down in the Star City School District about this all the time. But I didn't have the attitude. I was the class clown. I was constantly causing problems. I look back now and I see that it was because, one, I was just a rotten little kid, I guess I'll say, but two, because I was bored. And the funny thing about it is that the GT program down there at that point was the only program that had computing technology. And I look back now and I say, where would I be if they wouldn't have looked over me as a student and put me in that program? And maybe that would have, A, corrected some of my behavior issues because I would no longer been bored. And two, where would that put me? And that's part of the reason so closely. My name is Anthony Owen. I am the State Director of Computer Science Education, and I am going to try to keep you on the edge of your seats for the next 30 or so minutes. And I will say that's because I'm going to try to keep you entertained and focused on what I'm trying to say, not because you're trying to work up the nerve to scoot out the back door. I want to say a couple of things in response to the earlier speakers. One, thank you, Dr. Brown, for the invitation and including me in this event. Two, I want to say y'all have a beautiful facility here. You should be proud of it. Dr. Benjamin, thank you for establishing this conference. It looks like it has, over 24 years. If it's still in effect and still disregarded, you did a wonderful job establishing it, and others have done a wonderful job carrying it on. So thank you. Yes. Also would like, Ms. Tate, you indicated you were a pre-service education major, correct? You're going to be a teacher? How many other pre-service education majors do we have in the room? Please stand. I want you all as seasoned educators, and y'all know this as well as I do. Also, if you're in the first 5 years of teaching, please stand. Anyone else in the first 5 years of teaching? Okay, well then that's great. I want everyone else in this room to look at the people standing, and also Ms. Tate. I won't ask her to stand, but she can if she would like. These are the people you need to be mentoring. These are the people you need to be reaching out and supporting. Because statistics show in the first 5 years that 2 of them will still be teachers at the end of 5 years. Okay? I hope they all are, because we need them, as Ms. Pfeiffer will say. And I want you all to go forward with something in mind. I want you to keep the energy that you have. I want you to keep the enthusiasm that you have for teaching right now, always in the background. When you have to fill out that paperwork that ADE pushes down on you, okay? When you have all these kid issues, the parent issues. It was never the kids that bugged me. It was more the parents that bugged me when I was in the classroom with the kids. I love the kids. But when you have those issues, remember this energy. And always remember that teaching is not a fallback job. It is a first choice profession.
Right.
Thank y'all. And thank y'all for what you do. I'm going to try to, do we have our projectors up over there? I'm going to share with y'all a couple videos during this presentation, and hopefully, are we up on the projector screens?
If you're in the computer field, from the very beginning, you're going to be the first in a lot of things. I've never since, never been in this exciting an environment. We knew we were pushing back frontiers.
In February of 1946, 6 months after World War II had ended, America learned of a secret army project called ENIAC. It was the first all-electronic digital computer. Yet the tale of ENIAC's programming by a group of young women has been all but erased from computer history. During World War II, the U.S. had assembled a crew of nearly 100 mathematically trained women whose official title was computer. Women who were computing complex ballistic trajectory equations by hand and using mechanical desktop calculators. In the spring of 1945, 6 were selected to figure out how to program the ENIAC machine. Fran Belis, Betty Jean Jennings, Ruth Lichterman, Kathleen McNulty, Betty Schneider, Marlon Westcott.
We were computing ballistic tables on a hand calculator. We were computing, and we were computers.
They were logical diagrams of the ENIAC, and we were supposed to study them to figure out how to program it.
ENIAC became a legend. Eckhart and Mockley became famous. However, the ENIAC programmer story, the story of these 6 women founders who created the first sort routine, first software application, and became the first teachers of modern programming, was never told. Their work dramatically altered computing in the 1940s and 1950s as they paved the path to modern computer science.
At that time, the emphasis was on the invention of the ENIAC. I mean, developing the mechanics, the hardware.
We were like fighter pilots. I mean, here was this great machine, but you couldn't just take any ordinary pilot and stick him into a fighter pilot and say, go to it now, man. I mean, that was not the way it was going to be.
I had a fantastic life. Everything I did was the beginning of something new.
I really loved working with those girls.
So, this is one thing that we have done for educators in the state of Arkansas under this initiative is we worked with the ENIAC Programmers project to make all 3 of their documentaries, which y'all saw, this was a trailer for the first one called The Computers. It's the untold story of the women mathematicians who wrote our all-first digital compiler and program for a World War II machine. And that was an untold story. The other 2, the coders and the future makers, are the stories of women and minorities in the computing field and how they are bringing about emerging technology. We have made those available to every Arkansas K-12 educator through the Arkansas Ideas LMS system, free to share with students and at community events. So please encourage your teachers, your communities to go out and share these videos with their students, with other educators, etc. And my office has some screening rights to those. So if you ever want a screening of one of the videos, please give me a call and we can see if we can work something out. Okay, y'all don't need to see all my notes necessarily. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of skip around. I hate whenever I set up a PowerPoint and then I always want to go different directions. I want to tell you that y'all mentioned Daniel Moy earlier, Daniel Moy. And I will tell you that Daniel is not only a leader in the state of Arkansas, Daniel is a national leader in the field of computer science. Daniel received not only the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics Science, Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching last year, $10,000 check made out to him. He also was the inaugural winner of the CSTA Teachers Award, which was another $10,000 check to him. So I don't know what his taxes look like to him this year, but I guess it's, as my mother always said, if you don't want to pay taxes, don't make money, right? So what is Arkansas's vision for computer science? It is all Arkansas students actively engaging in a superior and appropriate computer science education. Now, what does that mean? That means that, and this has really become the mantra of my office, I can tell you personally it is the mantra of Governor Hutchinson whenever it comes to this initiative. That is no excuses, okay? And I usually share this story, and I'll be brief because I have another story that I think is so much closer, and I hate being stuck in one position, so I'm going to move. I share this story. The Apollo 11 computer, guidance computer, which was the computer that took the ship to the moon, put man on the moon, and brought him back to the U.S., back to Earth, was ran by a computer that had approximately 64 kilobytes of memory, and operated at 0.043 megahertz. Now, this is an iPhone 6. I haven't upgraded to the 7 yet, Mayor, where I think she had to step out, which I understand, everybody's busy. This is an iPhone 6. It has 128 gigabytes of memory and operates at 1.4 gigahertz of processing power. Now, let's talk a little bit about conversion. So some of y'all are here asking about what does computer science have to do with other subject areas. Let's talk about a math lesson. How many of y'all in elementary education have heard the question of little Susie has 32 balloons, little Susie has 24 float away, how many balloons does little Susie have left? Does anybody really care, especially little Susie? No, not unless she actually is holding those balloons. Okay? Now, I was a math major, I was a math teacher, so I can get by with saying this. Now, I can tell you, and there have already been people attest, that little Susie definitely cares about her iPad or her iPhone. And if they're like my two sons, little Susie cares about if she wants to download a new movie onto the iPhone or iPad, is there space available? So little Susie's iPad is a 16 gigabyte iPad. She wants to install a movie that takes 3 gigabytes, but she's already used 14 gigabytes of memory. Can little Susie install it? Now, did I get to the same question? Did I make it relevant to little Susie and what little Susie cares about? So we're still doing math. We're just making relevant. Now, let's talk about any other math teachers out in the field, out in the room? Okay. Well, then I can pretend I know what I'm talking about and get by with it. So let's talk a little bit about clustering standards. Because so often we have teachers across the state that want to teach their classes and their standards as a checklist. And I see it quite often. And that has very little value for our students. I'll just tell you that right now. But if you can connect ideas, if you can find connections. So let's go to that same problem. Another mathematics standard in that same realm, or that we can now talk about, is approximation. That is required. So computer science people in the room, approximately, I said let's say little Susie's iPad's a 16 gigabyte iPad. We'll work with relatively small numbers. What approximately is a gigabyte? Anybody know how many megabytes are in a gigabyte? It's 1,024, but if we do an approximation to what students at that grade level would understand, we'd say about 1,000, right? So we're talking about approximation, which is a mathematics standard. Now, anybody know how many kilobytes are in a megabyte? In a megabyte, approximately 1,000, but 10,000 in a gigabyte. So what are we talking about now? Approximation and placeholder and conversion. So by changing from balloons to iPads and gigabytes, not only can we talk about what a gigabyte is, that's a teachable moment, but then we've worked in so many other standards. Now, I said I was going to make this a little bit more unique to Pine Bluff in UAPB. And I can't believe that, and maybe this story just hasn't been shared, or maybe I missed it in the program, but this should be UAPB's story this year, if you're focused on computer science. How many of y'all know that y'all have a hero here in Arkansas that originated here out of UAPB in the field of computer science? Okay? So I want to share that story just briefly with you all if you're not familiar with it. There was a lady who attended school at UAPB. Her name was Montague. And I invite you to go out and look up this story and read more about it. Because if you've seen the movie or read the book Hidden Figures, she's been here. Well, good. So then I'm going to share it briefly, because it sounds like most of y'all have heard it, but I'm going to go ahead and share it briefly. So how many of y'all know that Montague originally wanted to go to the University of Arkansas? Yes. Yes, and then she went to UAPB. She went to into the Navy, and she was working on the 1950s UNIVAC system computer, and she was not supposed to touch that computer because she was from Arkansas, and because she was a she, and because of her race. Admirals came to her and said, "Young lady, we understand that you've got a system to design ships. Like most great people, they don't listen necessarily. They don't allow authority to oppress them. Let me say it that way. They're going to do what they're going to do to be great no matter what." And she said, the Admiral came to her and said, "Young lady, we hear that you've got a system to design ships." And she recalled, and they said to the President has given us 2 months. We can give you a month. Can you do it? Well, I want to tell you that her system revolutionized the design process for all naval ships after it was adopted. Her career took off. She was flown to the nation's capital, etc. So they gave her a month to get it. Does anybody know how long it took her to design that ship? 18 hours and 26 minutes. So I'm not sharing anything y'all don't know. I need to move on. Okay, I'll move on then. Okay, so Governor Hutchinson's leadership, and I always have to give credit where credit is due, this has been a focus of his administration since he was running for office, and he's doubled down on it since he's been in office. Our state has seen great success in this because of his leadership and because of the support of the legislature. And I've got a couple other shows I may go back to here in a second, but we're going to skip forward because I want to leave time for questions. We'll come back to them if we need to. So whenever I go out and speak, and I do speak nationally, in fact I'm flying out tomorrow, but I'm always honored to speak in the state to Arkansas educators. Whenever I go out to speak, either nationally or in-state, I often say, and others say, that Arkansas is leading the nation in the Learn to Code movement. And I can audibly hear the eyes roll. Arkansas leading something? What? Something good? Okay. This is not just myself and Governor Hutchinson saying it. This is recognized by Code.org, by the Computer Science Teachers Association, by Wired Magazine, by Time Magazine, etc. We are the first state that have met all 9 policy recommendations that were put out by Code.org. My office made that a priority early on to do that. And then about a month ago, we were notified that BNY Mellon, in partnership with multiple other entities, was writing basically a guide for state implementation of computer science. Arkansas is the only state to meet all 10 policy recommendations of Bank of New York Mellon and their partners when it comes to implementing computer science education. We need to be proud of that, just like we need to be proud of being teachers, okay, and educators. And I'm married to Texan, so I always leave the one in the lower left hand there for reference or in honor of her. So reasons for Arkansas success. And I'm just going to kind of flow through these quickly. Comprehensive legislation and content. So we were the first state in the nation to adopt and truly implement a requirement that every high school in the state in our state offer at least one computer science course to their students. Access is key. 1 in 5 schools were not even offering a computer science course, a high quality computer science course at a high school level in Arkansas prior to this initiative. And it was probably lower than 1 in 5. That was a national statistic. central point of contact. As I tell people all the time, my mother taught me growing up that no matter how good you are at something, there's always someone better that can do it better than you. But this was a key point that Governor Hutchinson did. He created a central point of contact for this position, and I think that has allowed us to move to the point that we are. Graduation credit. Your students can now use computer science to replace their 4th year math or their 3rd year science. Now, I told you I was a math major. I was a math teacher. I value math education, and I hear a lot of grumbling sometimes about, well, we need our students to learn higher level math, and I agree. Okay? I think higher level math is important. I've taken a lot of it. But I want you to think about it for a second. What do we teach? What are we really trying to teach when we have students in calculus? What are we really trying to teach when we have students in AP statistics? Do we really care if students can go out after they leave high school and calculate the value under a parabolic figure with Riemann sums? No, we don't care. 99.99% are not going to use that, and the other 0.01% are going to be teachers. Okay? So they can teach other people to do it. What are we teaching with those higher level math skills though? We're teaching, or those higher level math classes, we're teaching problem solving. We're teaching analytical thinking. We're teaching computational processes. We're teaching students to encounter new problems, new and more difficult problems, and not give up. To find an entry point. To work through a solution, to evaluate that solution and try to make it better. Guess what computer science is? The same thing. But guess what? You have a class of students, you have a group of students out there that don't care about calculus. They don't care about statistics. They don't care about any of those 4th year math classes, and they're going to be seniors in your high schools. They're going to be causing problems because we've forced them into a class that they don't care about, but we want to teach them those problem solving skills, but we do such a poor job because we force them into it, they leave with an F and a worse feeling about it than when they walked in. But a lot of those same students can find value in a computer science class. They can find a skill that they want. They can find an area that they like. And they can get those same concepts, and they can leave with some pride and some success. And that is what this is about. Teacher capacity, that's the majority of our funding. The state of Arkansas is putting $10 million in 4 years behind computer science education specifically. Legislature just approved the next 2-year budget. That is the most of any state in the nation. I will repeat that. And I didn't say any state of the same size. I said that is the most of any state in the nation. So we have put a financial commitment behind computer science. We have to make sure that we are successful in this model. So short-term success versus long-term sustainability. Our first 2 years, phase 1, has been about building that short-term success. It's been putting that legislation in place, getting regulation in place, figuring out teacher licensure, creating standards and courses. So we actually rewrote all computer science in Arkansas. We were the first state to create K through 8 grade-specific standards for computer science that would be embedded into other content areas. We're the first state to require every student in either the 7th or 8th grade to take an introduction to coding. And we have set the national model for high school development of courses and standards. And I say that not just because of the quality, we're actually higher rigor than the national CSTA standards, but because we co-wrote them with our Department of Career Education. And we co-branded them with our Department of Career Education. Which, what does that mean? That means A, you can use federal Perkins funding to expand the program, while students can get that academic flex credit. The only area only content area that has done that in Arkansas. Phase 2, we're entering next fall. We're going to continue putting money behind expanding teacher capacity, promote enrollment and diversity. And I always say when I go out and talk about this, yes, we're going to try to increase overall enrollment numbers. I want 10,000 students taking computer science courses, 10,000 unique students taking computer science courses each year before I leave this job. Okay? Now, the thing about it is, like I told the governor early on where he told me, Anthony, I want 20% of Arkansas high school students graduating with at least one credit on their high school transcript, I told them, I said, Governor Hutchinson, that is no problem. I can get you 20%. But I said, unless we back up and we really rethink about this whole initiative and we come out with a strategic plan, 90% of those students are going to look like me, geeky white males. Okay? Because that's the national averages. We have to focus on how do we promote diversity. And it's not diversity for diversity's sake. It's diversity because guess what? There are quality programmers who are female. There are quality programmers that are African American. There are quality programmers who span every race and ethnicity out there. So we owe them the opportunity, the access to computer science education. And beyond that, I hear a lot of people say, I had one superintendent, well, I won't say exactly what was said, but basically I was told, my kids don't need this. Their future is already predetermined. Now, one, I question whether we need that superintendent still in that position. But I think that superintendent's attitude has changed since we had that initial conversation. But I will say every student, whether they are going to be a programmer, whether they are going to be an IT person, whether they're going to, well, they'll enter a field that has technology in it, I can go ahead and tell you that right now, no matter what their field is. By the time our current students leave high school, they will enter a field or they will encounter technology. But every student will benefit from the technology, from the analytical thought processes, from the problem solving. So, post-secondary alignment, this is a big one here at UAPB. All of our pre-service programs are going to start implementing computer science as part of the pre-service requirements. We're also going to ensure that our computer science major programs start evolving, that as we get this more technical quality of students out there, and I know I'm driving the cameraman crazy back there by moving, I'm sorry. As we get this higher quality of students, or these more educated level of students in computer science education coming out of our high schools, our post-secondary programs really have to rethink. Are we just putting students back through the same stuff again? Are we doing them a service, or do we need to amend our programs? Do we need to look and look at whether our programs are doing a service for them? Of course, we're always going to evaluate our initiative and move forward. And then after 4 years, we'll go into phase 3. We involved industry. First time. Now this is what kills me about the department. I've been there since 2011 and looked over the math, or oversaw the math program. We never involved industry in the creation of any of our standards, our educational standards. What are we trying to do as public school systems? We're trying to prepare students to be quality workers. Now, what do post-secondary institutions do? They are trying to prepare students to be quality workers. Now, whether our students at the K-12 institution feeds into the post-secondary or they go into the workforce, guess what? It is still the K-12 job to prepare quality workers. So, we involved industry in writing these standards. We asked them what they needed. Guess what? Most industry people said that they would have no problem hiring a high school student for $65,000 a year if they could show that they have the computer science knowledge, and they could show that they would get out of bed every morning and show up to work on time. They said that is the reason, that is the primary reason they hire four-year post-secondary graduates. Not because of the extra knowledge that is gained per se, but because that person has demonstrated a commitment to that field by at least gaining that degree. And they have some skin in the game, so to speak. So we're doing a poor job at K-12 teaching life skills, soft skills, in my opinion, if that's the case. So help us with that as you go out there. We're working for credit for internships with local companies or our new computer science courses. They can count for academic flex credit if they enter an internship. We have 6 students interning at Walmart right now, getting academic credit on the job experience in their IT department. What more real world experience can you get in that? I encourage you to get with your local high school, find what industries around here might tap into this opportunity for your students. Credit for independent study. So in the past, we've had robotics clubs, we've had East Initiative labs that have done great computer science work. But guess what? They did that for free, so to speak. They did it for strict knowledge. We wanted to give them a credit in computer science if they can show that it's high quality. We also said no prerequisites on these. First ADE set of courses that we've never established prerequisites at a state level. Why? When I first threw this up to Johnny Key and told him I was looking at wanting to do this, he got that look on his face that he often gets with me. And then he says, okay, explain it to me. And it's because if we implement K-8 computer science properly, and we implement that introduction to coding at the 7th, 8th grade properly, then you're going to have students that latch onto it. They get on YouTube, they get on Harvard CS50, they get on one of these other 9 million free computer science tools that teach them how to become programmers, and before they come back to 9th grade, they're going to know more than your teachers. Okay? And there will be those, and that's fine. We want our teachers to be facilitators of learning in computer science. So what would be the worst thing we could do to those students? Put them back in year 1 computer science, right? Because the state said you had to. It was like the 7th grade student and the parents that I had the conversation. He was taking college algebra at the local community college and calculus at the high school. He was a 7th grader. And guess what I had to tell those parents? He had to go back and take Algebra 1 and geometry because our state rules said so, if he wanted a diploma from that public high school. What good did that do that student? None. It hurt that student. And education should never hurt students. Educational policy. I already mentioned the K-8 standards. We provided teacher clarification statements of what they actually mean. They have been adopted. They're to be implemented next year, included the coding block this coming fall. Teacher clarification statements just pretty much do exactly what they say. They're not standards, but they give teachers clarification on what they are, what they mean. In reference to the soft skills that I talked about, we decided to adopt a state set of computer science practices. These hit those soft skills, and when I challenged my committee to come up with these, I said, I want a set of standards that span K through C, kindergarten through career. This includes teachers, by the way. So, because teachers are still students, right? Or should be. Lifelong learners, thank you. Persevere. Do we want our students, do we want our teachers, do we want our industry people to persevere through problems? Do we want them to collaborate with others? And I'll make this available to everyone on our website if you're worried about pictures, and I'll get it to Dr. Brown, the link, so she can share out. Do we want them to look for patterns in their work, or do we want them to recreate the wheel every time they start? And that's my timer telling me I better hurry. Do we want them to use tools appropriately? That's what we talked about, that technology, the appropriate use of technology. Do we want them to communicate properly? Guess what? We want them also to use this power ethically and understand its impact. We have, our students are now part of the required standards at a high school level, have them engaging in what we call white hat hacking. Guess what? They're hacking anyway if they have any knowledge about computer science. Okay? We might as well put it as part of the standards and ask them to help us find security flaws in our networks and give them credit for that. Okay? Guess what? Other countries are doing this and they are beating us. They are beating us. That is why we constantly hear about security leaks in the field. And that's why we have 5 FBI offices that can't find a computer information security officer to fill their office across this nation. Problem solving, we talked about that. I'm going to skip that because we're beyond that. Y'all have already seen that. Future Grant, this is big for our colleges. And this is a feeder program to UAPB. So even though this doesn't directly impact financially UAPB, it creates a feeder program for UAPB. But the Arkansas Future Grant does set aside free tuition at community and technical colleges to any student who enrolls in high demand field such as computer science or welding. It does not require new general revenues, and it does make the student accountable for those monies. Teacher Opportunity Program, so teachers out there, or soon-to-be teachers, If you want to go back and get a computer science degree, one, you don't have to. You can just test out a computer science to put it on your licensure. You take the 5651, and it can be added to any existing teacher licensure. But if you want to go back to college to get a master's in computer science, the legislature has now authorized the Teacher Opportunity Program to give preference to the computer science program. So go out there and look at that, and if you need information on that, contact me. Help us engage students and community members. There are so many community members that still don't know this is a focus. And I'm going to show a 30-second video that showed in theaters across the state over computer science, or over spring break. We are constantly trying to do additional things like this just to try to get the word out. But that is really the help that y'all can give this initiative, is letting parents know of the job opportunities there are for students. Not only the job opportunities, but the academic opportunities there are out there for students, and that they are to be made available for them. So if you ever come across a school, the student says, my school doesn't have computer science for me, call my office, because we got a legislative problem then, okay? And let's figure out where the disconnect is. I'll share this, and then we'll move on to questions. So we played that in theaters across state. Very simple little ad. Shows the governor, having some fun with the initiative also, and getting information out there. And we have multiple different things like that to help promote computer science in your communities and in your classrooms. My contact information is on the screen. If you're not part of our CS listserv, I encourage you to join it. The Google link's there at the bottom. That is an active listserv in the state of Arkansas, everything computer science. I guess do we have some time still for questions?
Good morning, and let me also say that I appreciate your visiting with us this morning and sharing at this conference. And Mr. Owen, we really appreciate your coming, sharing not only your personal experiences, but your expertise with us. We have about 10 minutes for questions, so I'll entertain those questions. If you have, please come forward. I'll give you the microphone and you can present your question. Any questions? If not, I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
May I share it with you?
Yes, ma'am.
You know that we have some remote school districts in the state of Arkansas. What are we going to do about not only preparing, but funding teachers to go into those areas to give that kind of information to those students?
Well, one, I mentioned the Teacher Opportunity Program. Two, we're looking at, we should have some information out on this very quickly in coming weeks. We're going to expand our stipend program to add the computer science licensure. And I can't give exact numbers on that, but it looks like that we're going to be able to fund to the tune of about $2,000 to $2,500 if a teacher will add that area of licensure to their license and then teach high-quality computer science for 1 year.
Are you saying that there will be some extra funding for teachers who might want to relocate to those remote areas?
Relocate or just stay where they are. The thing about it is that we're not going to be able to build the teacher pipeline to create computer science majors coming through and them being educators. What we have to do is we have to find educators who have an interest in technology and then refit them with the skills that they need to go out and teach these classes in maths. Because guess what? If I have a person go through a 4-year degree for a computer science degree, very few of them are going to go into education when they can go down the road and make $70,000 a year.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you for an enlightening presentation. My first question that I wrote in my book over there was, how do you integrate the computer science into other disciplines? You've talked a lot about the computer science emphasis, but wouldn't it be helpful, or would it be helpful to also integrate it into other disciplines that are offered?
Yes, ma'am, and actually that's exactly what the K-8 standards, K-8 embedded standards call for. We don't want schools doing pull-out for just computer science at K-8 level. We want your math teacher. We want your science teacher. We're working with a micro grant right now with a school in this area that is actually going to teach computer science through their art class with a program called VidCode, VIDCODE, where the students take pictures, videos, and use coding to change attributes about those. So yes, it integrates across all content areas, especially at that K-8 level. And here's the reason why, and I'll just briefly touch on this. Your K-8, or our K-8 buildings in Arkansas are reflective of national statistics when you look at gender and ethnic makeup. It is more diverse with gender and more representative of the population that they serve within, ethnically and racially. Guess what? Those kids, there is no greater hero to a second grade student than their second grade teacher. Guess what? They trust that second grade teacher more so than they do their parents. So if they see Miss Johnson, who looks like her, if little Susie sees Miss Johnson who looks like her, who's a female like her, talking about computer science in the terms of science, math, or art, or social studies, or whatever, little Susie knows, hey, computer science can also be for females that look like me. And that's how we change those racial and those gender gap discrepancies at a high school level. We don't change it by going and telling a 16-year-old computer science is for you. Because guess what? That does not work in mass. It only works when we change the culture at the younger levels. So yes, that's exactly what we want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned in your presentation, in phase 2, I believe you said something about increasing enrollment and diversity. Is that one of the strategies in that answer that you gave us in accomplishing that?
That is a strategy along with other initiatives such as the ENIAC Programmers project, telling that untold story that women have been a pioneer in this field, helping get stories like Miss Montague out there, and encouraging teachers to gain these skills at that K-8 level. My wife is a K-8 educator. She's actually in the K-5 building. She has taken it upon herself to become the master teacher for computer science in that building, helping other teachers to try to integrate it in their classroom. So we need teacher leaders to step up and help us with that in each of those K-8 buildings.
Thank you. Are there any?
Hello, thank you for your wonderful presentation. I have a question regarding schools that may not have technology that's up to date or up to par to actually actively and effectively integrate the computer science and technology programs that the state of Arkansas has in plan for our future schools. Will there be extra funding from the state or even grants and things that those particular schools who need to update their computers and their system and their software in order to do that?
So, two things. One, not that the past really matters because we're looking at what we can do in the future, but we did put out $1.7 million in direct-to-school grants in 2015 to try to jumpstart this initiative. Many schools across the state, including those in the most need, applied and got a $20,000 check to do what they needed to implement the program. I will tell you that community partners are some of the best sources for getting grants for technology in your classrooms if you can show how you're going to use it. I cannot tell you, I walked into a classroom 6 months ago and there was a 3D printer that I paid for through a grant out of the state. And it had been sitting in a box, it was still sitting in a box 3 months after it was delivered. That is what grantees don't want to see, is using technology. But beyond that, I will say 90% of what we're asking you to do, probably 100% at the K-8 level and the embedded standards, can be done with no technology because they're skills in the computer science field. There's a wonderful site out there called Unplug CS. Go out there and Google it. You don't even need technology to teach computer science skills in that field. But it also goes back to my slide that said no excuses. Your kids are walking around with more power in their pockets. How many of your kids don't have one of these? They're walking around with more power in their pockets than we put men on the moon and brought them back home with.
Thank you so much, Mr. Owens. We appreciate your interest in this area, and we appreciate also your interest in sharing it with us.
Well, thank y'all, and I hope that you either found something useful out of my presentation, enjoyed it, or enjoyed your nap.
And I'm sure you'll be around a while for people who might want to engage with you personally.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to present Chancellor Alexander for his greetings and also for a special presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So happy to see all of you here this morning. Sorry I was running a little late today, but I am glad that I did get here in time to hear our speaker this morning. And let me just say thank you to Mr. Anthony Owen, who did an outstanding job and who is doing a great work for us. And I want to commend the work that they're doing. I didn't know about all of this until this speech this morning, that they're doing in a very innovative way and in a very integrative way, leading computer science education for our schools in Arkansas. So we'd like to thank you for that, and I'm going to give you a presentation at this time, yes, to thank you for coming and blessing us today. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And while I got the mic, I know it's break time, but I'm just going to take a moment to, I just want to thank and commend Dr. Vera Lang Brown and the committee who worked so diligently and so hard in a dedicated way to organize this conference. And they've worked hard. They've been working on this for a long time, for months. And in a very organized way, put everything together for this event. Last but not least, we certainly want to recognize Dr. Benjamin for being the moving force behind this conference and for her many years of service and commitment to education. Thank you, Dr. Benjamin. As you know, the Annual Access Conference was created to serve as an avenue to enhance and sharpen the focus of our educational programs as we excel in our student preparation and student learning outcomes. I'm so pleased that this year the conference was able to align with Governor Asa Hutchinson's initiative to increase students' awareness and interest in computer science and STEM careers. STEM, as you know, continues to be the driving force that moves the country forward. So it's vital to the future of our youth that we continue to educate and prepare them for careers in the STEM fields, in the STEM areas. And that's certainly evident today with our focus on computer science. So keep on pushing, teachers, educators, administrators, keep on pushing for opportunities for our students and keep on pressing for partnerships that will contribute to the growth and development of our students at every level of education in our state. Thank you for all you do for the students of our state in education. Thank you.